Welcome, Night Owls, to the Book Club After Dark podcast, an inviting moonlit podcast. I'm your host, Danny.
And I'm Michelle. We break down fantasy, romantasy, dark romance, and thriller novels.
All things enchanting, intriguing, suspenseful, and maybe a little spicy.
Each episode features intimate discussions on captivating stories, character breakdowns, fan theories, and more. And here's your content warning. This podcast contains mature themes and discussions that may not be suitable for all audiences. Episodes include explicit language and descriptions of mature romance, as well as depictions of violence and other intense subject matter. This podcast is rated R for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
And going forward from here, there are going to be lots of spoilers for Anathema by Kerri Lake. Consider this your spoiler warning.
Let's get cozy because the best stories are told after dark.
Tonight's drink of the episode, I'm really excited about, Michelle. It's one we haven't done before and is alcohol-free. However, you can definitely add alcohol to it if you want. Very easy to do so. So let's show you what it is. This is it right here. This is, I'm calling it Journey into the Eating Woods. And the reason for that is it is a Thin Mint Girl Scout cookie milkshake. Now, why you might ask, it's the season of the Girl Scouts right now. We've got cookies everywhere. I don't know if you've been to any local grocery store or anything that's going on. You're bound to see the Girl Scouts out there hustling to sell those cookies. So I thought we need to do some kind of drink about how we're getting into the woods, what looks kind of woodsy, what can I do with Girl Scout cookies that is dairy-free, actually. And this is, I don't know if you know this, but Thin Mints don't have any dairy. It's just cocoa.
That's good to know.
Dairy-free. Yes.
Since I'm dairy-free right now, so that's
exactly.
good to know.
You can have your Thin Mints. You're good to go with Thin
go.
Mints. And I used Oatly mint chip ice cream, which is also dairy-free and vegan. And I used some ice and oat milk. And then I topped it with this Hershey syrup, again, dairy-free, and with some Thin Mint cookies, so crushed up. So there's actual Thin Mints in the shake. And then you could always add vodka to this if you want. I think vodka is probably the easiest one that's gonna, make it the smoothest. But I didn't do anything for this particular drink. But I wanted something that like kind of had a woodsies, like, I don't know, dirt look. So that's kind of what we got here. So I was like, well, why not?
I love that.
We're gonna be on a journey. We're journeying in the next few chapters we're going into, and so let's journey into the eating woods right here with that. And so
cheers. I love how you use cookies to represent the dirt. It's a milkshake. Of course it's delicious.
Well, you have some haters who are like, oh, it's not real milk, so it's not going to be good. I will tell you that dairy-free has come a long freaking way. They have come a long way.
No, for sure. I mean, there are some brands, like I'm trying to test out, like there are some brands I'm like, that definitely tastes like grainy. Like it literally tastes like this is oatmeal water. But there are other brands that really just get it down, and it's definitely a lot easier to be dairy free, I feel, now than it was like even 5 years ago.
Oh yeah, like ever before. Yeah. So this is the Oatly full fat. I'm using air quotes, but that's what it's called. So there's like a Oatly like more skim version, and then there's Oatly full fat. I suggest for like coffee and for milkshakes to use the Oatly full fat. I don't know that if you're using it for cereal or something, it doesn't really matter so much. But anyway, we could talk about that for a long time. So let's get back into our book, which is why we're actually here. And tonight, we're diving back into Anathema by Kerri Lake. We have this whole new world. We showed you the map before. Kerri's website for this is actually her map that she puts on the website is beautiful. So you have a moment to go and jump into the map and take a really good look at it. If you read this on Kindle Unlimited, you got your map, but like, did you? Because we all know like you didn't really. Go onto the website, take a good look at this map, and make sure that you know where the heck we're going and where we're bouncing to, because there's a division in this map between this like very clear magical world and the mortal world where there's no magic. I'm using air quotes here. So, we're jumping between the two, and we have Savander in one place and we have our girl in another place, Maveth, and we're bouncing back and forth between this parish that she's in and where Savander is in, where he's kind of navigating a couple different areas of the world he's in. So tonight we're going to be going through, we ended last week on chapter 12, so we're going to pick up at chapter 13 through 26 of Anathema by Kerri Lake. So whether you're reading along with us or you're just here for the book talk, we're always glad that you're here.
All right, let's get into chapter 13, which is from Mavis' perspective. So we are still in Foxglove Parish, if you're following along on the map. And Mavis tells Lola, remember Lola is the housekeeper, and that she tells her that Morris is physically abusing the servants because she finds out that the servant girl that she ran into or that was at their lunch was actually getting physically hurt by Moros, and he appears nicer than he is, which we knew he gave the ick to begin with. Mavis knew that, but then kind of gave him the benefit of the doubt because he was kind of nice in a way, but he was deceiving.
He brought her flowers and chocolate.
Yeah.
So he was nice-ish.
It's okay if you put hands on someone as long as you buy them with flowers and chocolate. Just kidding, that's not okay. It's never okay.
Okay.
Never okay. But Lola, so it's really hard because Lola has like the same prejudice about Laverians. So these are like the quote unquote savage group of people that the parish is against. And Lola also understands that she's a woman too. And women don't have rights, especially unmarried women. And she's not happy that she's betrothed to Moros, but Lola also cautions Mavis, like, you got to keep your head down, girl. Like, you need to be very careful in how you respond to anything inside that house because it will be weaponized against you, as we'll see very soon, or it will land her in some crazy shit because Moros is a very fucked up person. Beyond, awful. He's a collector of menagerie.
He's got some delights that he enjoys that are perverse, to say the least.
And Lola even says that, the biggest evil that the girls have experienced so far is mainly been Agatha and how tormenting she is. And Lola's like, that's nothing close than what you can actually experience in this world. So you need to watch yourself. And, then we have Alasia and Mavis both complaining about who they're betrothed to, which they'll do that for the next couple of chapters that we see them because there's not much they can do. They're powerless at this point. So the most that they can do is kind of talk around themselves, like, what ideas do we have? Maybe Riften is gonna be okay, and I don't want Riften to fall in love with the woman that he's gonna be betrothed to too, because Agatha is like planning everyone's weddings, and so she can just wipe her hands clean of them and just focus on her life and her poisons and whatnot. So it's a pretty sad, it's a quick chapter, but it's also like a chapter in terms of like from their perspective, because you just feel the weight of their helplessness throughout, as they're going through really the daily life of a woman in Foxglove.
Yeah, and I think what this does is it sets up the misogyny that we've already seen through these other chapters. It continues to laminate the fact that Mavis is in an unsafe place, and it continues to tell the story of her lack of control in this world and her lack of true identity, because she's not able to be herself and she's got to conform to the society and the standards that are impressed upon her, and also the other women that are in this area. For lack of a better term, we're talking about these superstitions that these people have against her, and how superstition is driving so much of the conversations, even the smaller conversations that are happening surrounding not being able to discuss anything supernatural or anything like that. There's just this level of eeriness and secretive talks and conversations, things you can't say out loud. And this whole world is just bad, to lack of a better term.
And because of the oppression of the church that is set up, really, it creates this eerie sort of space, like you said, because there's a fear. So there's a built-in fear in Foxglove, so of these supernatural, which really heightens what you're describing or what you're reading as a reader and you're going into this story.
Right. And you know that it exists because you're reading Zavander's perspective, which is in the same world, technically, just in a different part of the world. So you know that this magic exists. You just know that the red god, quote unquote, is the oppressor here and the religious sect and faith that Maveth is having to be bound to. Disturbing, to say the least. So, chapter 14, Maveth is awoken by someone screaming, "Help me." And this voice, she can hear it. It's coming from this vent in the house. And she's like, the hell? And she ends up outside of the embalming room. So if we remember from the first episode, Agatha had this opportunity to take Mavis' father's winery and all this and make a great winery. Instead, she ends up using the grapes and everything and the wine to make these poisons and ultimately decides that she's going to do a mortuary. One of Agatha's sons, I don't even know what to describe him as. He's just the worst, is Felix. And he's pretty sickening. Anyway,
They all are.
oh yeah,
they all reach a different level of gross.
Yeah, like none of the male men in this story on her side, especially in Foxglove, are redeemable or like good people in my mind.
And that's like they're the mortal men too. So
Which is
that
the point.
is obviously goes with like fantasy, right? Where the mortal realm is awful and the mortal men are icky. So we're driving into this fae world. Like we really want to go into that world and be with the people that are there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and I think it further laminates like there's nothing for Maveth here. Like, but I digress. So we don't see him yet, but she's outside the embalming room, and Agatha catches her and is like, "Why are you hearing voices? You're not hearing anything, you know." And Mr. Moros, he can fix you. You know, you need to be focused on your wedding. Mavis sneaks down to the embalming room, and she finds the Liberian servant girl dead with Uncle Felix, and the voice is screaming at her. So Mavis runs back upstairs and the voice is yelling at her, "I'm sorry." And what's interesting is that, so the girl is dead. So she's either hearing the girl having died, or she didn't hear the girl having died. And now she's hearing her as she's dead. Because remember, she also saw the man who was banished, who died, present himself in her room. So she's seeing dead people. We're getting a very I see dead people. If you don't know that reference or that movie, I'm aging myself. I don't care. If you do know that movie, we can be friends. You can reach out to me on socials. My point being, Michelle, you know that movie. Please tell me.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Immediately I was like,
okay.
I see dead people.
Yeah. So Mavis does. And so she knows now what's happened to her. And Mr. Moros obviously had her taken care of. And now Felix is
graphically taken care of. The way it's described is like her tongue is sliced out. It's really graphic. And I had to, I remember listening to this scene for the very first time. I was driving into work. And when I heard what Felix is doing, I'm like, this Felix, isn't that Riften? Like I thought I got the characters confused. I'm like, wait a minute, Felix is the other uncle. And then, it's pretty disgusting. That was a great way to start my day, listening to that scene. All of them are awful. Yeah. So.
Well, Felix, to just be clear, Felix takes great pleasure, too much pleasure, in dealing with these bodies.
Necrophilia.
And
let's just
call it what it is.
Yeah.
And it's disturbing. I'm very
Why hasn't Agatha
speechless.
set him up unless she knows about his
Oh, she knows.
escapades.
And she's like, how can I still use him? She has to know. There's no way she doesn't know. And I'm sure she just writes it off as, whatever. Yeah. Oh, God. So bad. Horrible. Yeah.
Oh, I'm laughing because it's uncomfortable.
It's so uncomfortable.
It's funny.
Literally. I was wondering, too. I was like, when we cover this, how are we going to... Well, we're just going to have to say it.
Yeah.
We're
It
just
is what it
gonna
is. This
have
is a dark romantasy, remember? So we're getting more dark themes that we're not
we are.
going to see in our standard fantasy, romantasy type books. More darker
This is like a
elements
horror
here.
element for sure.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We're definitely getting into
I would
horror.
say so.
Yeah.
Again, I will be having a lot of uncomfortable laughs as we're going through this book because it's so uncomfortable.
I was like,
Okay, chapter 15, it doesn't get any better. Mavis and Alasia are in the kitchen preparing dinner, and Mavis cuts her hand as she's like slicing vegetables. And Mavis is telling Alasia that Moros killed the servant girl because he literally saw her beaten to death and her tongue was cut out, which awful. Alasia
yeah.
then tells Mavis that she hasn't had her period in 2 months. So, because she obviously has been making great choices with her uncle, and uh, in order to like hide this, she's been like cutting her hand and like getting things
Yeah.
bloody so that Agatha won't catch on. I'm just like, how much are you cutting your hand, girl? Like that's a lot of cuts, but you gotta do what you gotta do, I guess. And she tells Riften, and she intends to have the Crone Witch terminate the pregnancy because she's like, we're in an awful situation here. Should have made better choices, but we're in an awful
Mhm.
situation, and the baby needs the mother, and obviously this isn't what is gonna happen. Mavis is like, okay, I love you. You're my sister. We're gonna get through this. And then at the end of the chapter, Mavis realizes that the cut on her hand is fully healed. So again, we're getting more hints of her magic. She sees dead
Yes.
people. Her body heals, which is great. Great for
Good
her.
for her. So now we jump to Zavander because what we talked about before in episode 1 and kind of includes this next couple of chapters is like we definitely get a lot more of Mavis' background than we do of Zavander's initially. And I think that's by design in the sense that her world is fairly simplistic for us to understand. His world is not. It
No.
is in the sense that it's basic to the people that are there, but like you're going to need your glossary. You're going to need to know all the things that are happening. And she's trying to like lay out all the things with him, but she can't do that without the balance of Mavis because I think her story is easier for us as a reader to like buy into and really understand what's happening because that whole magic element and all the other things are not occurring. Zavander's chapters are more sparse between when we see them versus the amount of chapters we see back to back of Mavis. By design, I think this is Kerri's way of trying to help us understand the world she's building. Otherwise, I feel like it would be too much. If we have too much of him, you kind of lose her plot because hers is still kind of simple compared to the amount of things that's going on with him. So to me, this balance made sense. I don't know how you felt about it as a reader, but as a first go, I was very overwhelmed by his chapters, and I wouldn't say I wasn't interested in them. I was, but I felt like I could understand hers more. So I was always a little bit grateful at the beginning of this book that it was more heavy with her story than his because I was trying to like get a sense of this world through him.
Yeah, I mean, when I first went through this book, it was an audiobook. So with his chapters, there's a lot of world building. And when you do an audiobook with very heavy romantasy novels, sometimes it's easy to get lost. So with his chapters, I really had to like focus on where he is, what he's saying, what he throws because as he's going along, he's like observing a lot of different things and he's talking about the different types of magic, the different types of people, the different locations, and his own history, which is very different than the current history that's going on right now, like, the political times. There's a lot there. So I was definitely grateful for hers because, like you said, it's human. It's human. There's, church issues, there are political issues, there are things that are very tangible that you can kind of hold on to. With him, like, there was not a lot that was very comparable to like the mortal world.
Yeah, it's because
Really.
you're like dropped into his world,
Mhm.
which is chapter 16 too. So he's riding over to the edge of the Hag's Mist forest. men from this King's Guard are approaching him, and Zavander just like burns him with his magic. He's like, "Nah, I'll just take your bloodstone, no biggie." And this is what we were talking about before, where this is a villain. Zavander is not meant to be the beloved hero in this story. It doesn't open with him being a beloved hero. He is an anti-hero for sure. And he continues to display this like, all right, you guys are with the King's Guard. Whoop, we're done. Let me get my bloodstone and move along.
Mhm.
So he spares this third guard and has the scorpions watch him. So, like, if you can imagine being this third guard who's like, I don't know how I got so lucky, but also am I really lucky? Because now these magical scorpions
not
are
lucky
going to
at all.
just sit here and watch me. So I
Mhm.
don't think so. So Zavander enters this forest, and before he enters through this archway, I'm not saying it. There's just no way I'm going to say it. In another language, he says, "If I am worthy, the seven will grant me free passage." So we hear about the gods here. And it's specific that he says it in another language. This is relevant. So he walks until he finds this other archway made of bones and branches, and it's the entrance to the mortal world. It's the entrance to the mortal world. So the way I was like, are we walking through the Eaton Woods backwards? Is that what's happening? We're walking through the Eaton Woods backwards. Got it. Okay, so now this is where there's the entrance, has the splatter of blood, which the bloodstone streaks with silver when Zavander touches it. And he feels a pleasure from this blood, and it's a new feeling. He sees a cottage and follows a blood path to the door, and he enters. He's drawn to the scent of blood, it's sweet oranges scent, and the way that this sweet orange scent is described is like, it's a very intense, it's like the Bath and Body Works candle intense sweet oranges,
Yeah.
okay? You've turned it on full blast, or, you got your scented oils, and it's like in your face in a small confined space. Like, that's how strong these oranges are. And they're like really good oranges, not like, they're like very intense, maybe with a hint of vanilla. We're getting some strong scents here. We're enjoying ourselves, right? So he follows the scent to this room with two beds and finds an egg. Whose room do we think that he is in? And an egg. So remember, Maveth had this egg. Finds a pale woman with black hair in the bed next to the egg, which is Maveth. He doesn't know that this is Maveth, but we know that this is Maveth.
Right.
His flames are drawn to her, and he tries to use the sable fire on her. He tries to use the sable fire on her, which, no joke, in this beginning of this chapter, just zapped 3 guys like no big deal. Done. Dead. And it ends up burning him with pain. He tries to use his scorpions, and they attack him instead. And he's like, the fuck is going on? Because this has never happened. Zavander's not young, right? He spent a century in a dungeon prison to another general somewhere else. Like, he has lived a long time. This is his first time experiencing this ever. He pulls out a blade. He's like, fuck it, I'm just going to kill her with a blade. Because remember, he needs this bloodstone specifically. He's on this hunt for these bloodstones. He needs this one specifically because he's trying to break the curse that he has, which is the sable fire, ironically, right? So that's the whole reason he's here. So kill an innocent girl in her bed. Good job, Zavander. Again, not the hero that we dreamed of. No.
Whatever to meet the end that he needs.
Right.
Whatever
exactly.
means.
He pulls out this blade to kill her, but she opens her eyes.
Imagine waking up to that. Again, sleep paralysis
he wears a mask too.
Demon. Yeah, he wears a mask. He has scars all over his face. So chapter 17 is Maveth's perspective, and she's literally like, like she wakes up and just paralysis demon. I would.
She's probably thinking like, I just saw this one dude. Now this other chick is screaming. Now I freaking wake up and this dude with the mask is standing over me.
Right. And she thinks it's an illusion again. Because she's like, I have not seen dead people. I have been seeing things. They are not dead, even though they are. And so she thinks he's an illusion, which he is actually not. The egg beside her bed just decides to like hatch. And after he touched it too, like he like messed with the egg, and like he was like, I'm gonna come back for this because I could sell it for something really great. And he talks about like the dragons and everything in his world. this black scaled creature appears, and the eyes are silver, and it has black wings, and under each side of its face is like a silver crescent. So this is really important, especially with Mavis eyes. Remember Mavis after sick, now her eyes are like a silvery hue. And it has 4 taloned feet with hind legs that are muscular. So essentially, I'm like picturing kind of like a griffin body, big muscular bird. And it looks like a miniature dragon also, but it's definitely a raven. So the way it's described is just
It has wings,
creature.
or has feathers and wings, but it has feathers.
Yeah, it's like a beak, but
Yes.
she describes it as like a dragon just because of like the way its body's built with the 4 legs.
Right.
It's, birds don't have that. And then immediately the creature's like, ooh, rat, and just like eats it. Then snuggles up to Mavis. So she calls him Ravox, which is actually named after a fierce yet charming Vonkovian warrior. So because she's like, you are really scary, but you're actually like kind of cute in like your own little way. So, that kind of fits. In the way I'd be like, yeah, I would, that is me. I would befriend a creature and just be like, okay, cool. You're just my friend now. And then before the chapter ends, the voices come back and they're crying for help. And she's like, nope, I'm going to bed. I'm not. La 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 la. Like when you're a kid.
Literally. Yeah.
When you're a kid and you like think you hear things around the house, it's like, nope, I'm going under my blanket. Nothing can get me under here. I'm just gonna tuck myself in, and voices can wait.
My little baby dragon thing just ate, so he's good. So I'm gonna go to bed.
Yeah,
she's done. And the way I kind of like kicked my feet when I was like, we have a pet. We've got a pet. Officially, we have a silver lining of hope. And also, he didn't kill her, which brings us to chapter 18, because now Zavander's like, what the fuck just happened to me? This has never happened to me. He has never failed to kill a target before in hundreds of years. So this is like kind of a big deal for his ego. He's not handling this well. And I remember we talked about this before, where Zavander's not a good guy. He's basically a bad guy. There's nothing like good about Zavander. He's not like, oh, he's not Xaden. He's not this guy that you're like waiting for these redeemable moments, which you will get later, but you don't get them right away. At first, you're kind of like, what is there to like about him? But he's mysterious, which, sure.
He's a shadow daddy, so obviously.
Not yet.
I mean,
he's just a villain right now. We're trying to figure out what the heck's going on with this guy.
I don't know.
Okay,
people
whatever. Sore spot for the villain. We got it. Got it, Michelle. So he goes back to this guard.
So I don't do toxic things. So, yeah.
So we go back to the guard, right? Because remember, the scorpions were watching the guard. Okay. Mm-hmm. And the scorpion had burrowed into him. Cool.
Ugh.
It's great. And he burrows into him and tells him to keep your mouth shut about what's going on. And he leaves the scorpion and says he'll remove it if he keeps his word to warn Zavander of anyone leaving the forest. So he literally leaves a part of his scorpion buried in this guy and is like, if you don't tell me that someone leaves this forest, like it will be the death of you. My scorpion will know, and I've got you. So now he's watching the forest because he's like, I've never failed to kill anyone. Something's going on here. He doesn't like it. He has like a vibe that there's something off about this whole situation.
He just followed her blood trail from the entrance to her bed. So, it's only logical that she's eventually going to make her way through there. At some point.
But this is our first true understanding of where the Eating Woods archways go and how they connect. Because we only had an idea of this before these chapters. So now we really understand this, and going forward it's critical, because this pathway is critical to book 1 and 2, and I think will likely have more relevance in book 3. So understanding this pathway of the Eating Woods, that's why it's called the Eating Woods trilogy. Where these Eating Woods connect and the story of how they connect is very Little Red Riding Hood, very like old lore type of storytelling, but I enjoyed that piece of it of like, this is exactly where we need to go, is through these woods. And I thought that was a cool element in the story.
Mm-hmm. So chapter 19 is Mavis' perspective, and she's walking home from the market, and she walks along the Eating Woods and sees the Crone Witch, and she has this really informative conversation with the Crone Witch. So the witch tells Mavis that the fever has become a part of her, and Mavis like, "What do you mean it's become a part of me?" But literally, it's she absorbed whatever cut her, absorbed that magic, and her blood is now part of the dead. She is literally like, essentially, she's a limbo in a way where she is among the living and also among the dead as well, simultaneously. And she walks that line. And there's the imagery of the raven, and the ravens guide the souls of the dead to the afterlife. And she now shares the blood with the raven and walks between realms. The Crone Witch also tells her that she was the one to find her in the woods when she was an infant. She didn't see who left her, but she was the one to find her. And she also talks about the gateway to the other world, which is, what Zavander just walked through. And she had seen, when she was a little girl, she had seen the portal to the woods and like took her brother to see that. And literally the woods took her brother. So then she's like, yep, ever since then, I warn people to stay away from the woods. And this is the Crone Witch who kind of like lives on the the closest outskirts of the woods. Like literally she's like barely into the woods. And she tells others like, get the fuck out of here. Lost someone. It's creepy out here, but I'm going to still stay out here and have my like little farm and my garden so people can leave me the fuck alone. So
yeah,
I don't blame her.
No.
Foxglove sucks. So Foxglove the
sucks.
Eating Woods, yeah.
She's like, just leave me alone. And she's also like a single lady, out here in the woods. And she's just doesn't want to be bothered. Nobody come over here. Nobody bother me. I'm going to live my little old lady life and don't come over here and be bothering me with your shit. I don't want to hear about it. Also, don't go in the woods. So naturally, of course, if there's a woman living alone, she must be up to horrendous magic and be doing all kinds of horrible witch things. Yes. That's what Foxglove immediately thinks. Right. Chapter 20, Zavander. Zavander's now obsessed. He's got a thing for Mavis. And I wouldn't even say it's like a love or sexual thing. He's just like, what the fuck's going on with this situation? And he's kind of enamored with her because of the oranges. Remember we talked about the oranges. So he has this moment where he sees her eyes and he's just like entranced. And he smells the oranges and he can't stop thinking about her, which for him is a problem. He's not happy about this situation.
No,
this
remember,
is not a good thing for him.
He is
on a mission.
Very much down there. So when he thinks of her, it causes a problem down there too, which painful. Doesn't want to think about it. Don't blame him.
No. So the stone he ends up getting wasn't enough blood for Dolian's collection. So remember we were talking about Dolian from before. He's the one he's trying to get these bloodstones to get rid of the spell that's on him, the curse. So he has to track down another person of her bloodline or return to Mortasia, which Mortasia is where the mortals are, which is where Mavis is, right? So he has to go back there if he cannot find someone else of her bloodline. Because again, he has to get so many bloodstones of all these different bloodlines to eradicate the curse that's been put on him. We've talked about this before. A former Celestian prisoner and member of King Sigarin's Latisse. If we had issues pronouncing any of that, I feel you in the camp with you because this isn't easy. Not easy.
No.
Don't worry. There's like a meme
there's a
of this or like a reel.
Guide at least.
No, there's a pronunciation guide, but there's like a reel where they're like, we were in the city of and we went on the journey to and we found the love of our life using the magic of blah blah blah. With his name was blah 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 blah. And and I'm like, if that's not this book, I don't know what.
Yeah, there are crazy names in this book.
The way I was reading this at 3 a.m. on my side, like, okay,
sure, that thing that is that. Yes,
we're there. We're going.
Yeah.
Got it.
We couldn't use the name assassins. We had to call them Latalis. So it's like, why don't assassins? They are.
We'll be okay. Latalis.
They're assassins. It could have been made easier, but it's okay. We love the world. So
yes, we do. Latalis. Thank you. So This guy knocks on Zavander's door with 2 other members of the Latalis who lived in barracks of the Edelon Castle and gives Zavander his lordship title. So these are basically friends of his, you could say, but they're also like friends of hundreds of years. So not just like recent friends. Been through a lot together. So Casimir has the power of ice, which is a bloodborne magic. The king wants him to kill Dolian Javaris, who's been in Corvus Keep, an abandoned castle, which Dolian, as we know, is the one that's helping Zavander. The castle's inhabitants are men that are driven mad by too much Vivicantum, which the last drink of the episode was Vivicantum, and we remember this can be a powder, but it's also like this rock that helps magic to grow, but can also be addictive in nature. They're thought to be cannibals, right? So a Mimicro had picked up on his voice. And the way the Mimicro kind of reminded me of Hunger Games.
Yep.
Yes. So I immediately thought of Hunger Games when I heard Mimicro. And I was like, that sounds like a Mockingjay, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And so we get a little nod to that here. I thought, maybe not, but it seemed like it to me that this was a bird that mimics. Essentially kind of the same thing. So King Sagrin thinks that Dolian is the one that's creating these bloodstones, and he's pissed about it, and he wants to capture Dolian to get rid of him and find out what's going on. Tauren is another Latalis, and so see, like, I struggle with these words because I read the physical book and I read the Kindle version. I didn't read the audiobook, which now has stunted my growth in terms of my knowledge here. Michelle has been trying to help me out, and we're doing it.
It's a 10 out of 10. Highly suggest.
Yeah, with ability to absorb another's Vivicantum. So he can literally take someone else's Vivicantum. So if they've absorbed it, then he can absorb it from you.
Which is
he also,
Which is a pretty cool magic in this world. Like that's very useful.
Oh, very. Absolutely. So, but he's on another mission. He's tracking someone, which is a Familian, which we talked about before. This Familian is someone who's killed 2 sex cells, which is what they refer to in this world as prostitutes, but he's also has to do with flame. So it's pretty self-explanatory, that word. Thank goodness. So he's been in love with Aya, which is Zavander's sister, and he has been taking it upon himself to be her protector, which is a long time to be her protector, and she is pretty good at self-sabotaging. So I can only imagine poor Tauren, the amount of torment Tauren has gone through has been, I remember thinking of him in my mind as Torment. No joke. That was like his nickname in my head. I was like, Torment. Poor guy. Because he's just been through so much. He loves Aya so much, and she is just a hot mess express and can't get herself together. But we know why. And it's because she can feel everyone else's everything. And who would want that power? Not me. So,
for sure.
Yeah, she's the empath times 1,000. She's like an empath that ate the blue mushroom in Mario, and now she just like feels it exponentially. So it'll be okay. So Casimir and Zavander go to find Dolian by themselves. Okay, so now they're on the hunt for Dolian. So
right, and Zavander, like this whole time, he's like, "Oh shit!" They're on the trail on Dolian, so he has to like pretend like, "Oh, I guess we gotta go find this guy," and
even though we know that Zavander knows where Dolian is because he's
and who he
been,
is,
like,
and
meeting up with him and everything. But so the king is just like clearly the intent of this chapter in my mind is to let us know that the king is out of touch, 1, and 2, introduce us to some of Zavander's like sidekicks and give him basically some redeeming qualities, that he's good at friendship and that we have friends, and that even though we're kind of a murderer guy, we still have like some friends.
And our friends are other murderer guys. So
look, when you're all part of a group and it has a name, is it really, I mean, whatever.
That's called
they're
gang.
Under the king.
That's called
No, they're like part of like a
I get it. But if we're all like, murdering things and it's called a group,
but they're part of
that doesn't make it good.
King. They're part of Assassins for the King.
That
it's its
also
own
doesn't
club.
make it good.
I never said that it made it good. I just said that it's sanctioned by the king of this world. He's like, look, here's my badass assassin group. That's here they are. They're right here, and they're all friends. So it makes you feel slightly better. Look, you were just defending him last chapter, so I'm not really sure why we're confused now. Whatever.
No, I'm not confused. Anyway. You're just like, he's great at making friends. I'm like, I don't know, great is the word for it. Okay, so chapter 21, we go back to Maveth's perspective, and Maveth opens the shed that she hid Rayvox in. And the shed is basically Uncle Rifton's like storage area also. But she's like, no one's going to go in here. And
Yeah.
Rayvox had happily eaten Agatha's tabby cat,
Yeah.
Baxter. But Rayvox didn't feel like eating the head. He just like, I'm going to kind of smash up the entrails, slurp them up, and leave the head there. I'm full. And obviously, if
Yeah.
Mavis is caught with the head of a dead cat in a
Not gonna be
heavily
good.
religious like
Not gonna
parish,
be good.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
witch, burn her at the stake.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So and then
She's
Uncle
like,
Rifton
fuck, what
comes
do I do?
by. Yeah, she's literally holding the cat head in her hand, and Uncle Rifton comes by, and this interaction with Uncle Rifton was very icky, for the lack of better word. So
Ugh.
Rifton's like, Alasia is beside herself. Oh my gosh, she's just so worried about who you're going to marry, and Moros is into like a lot of weird shit, and you're innocent, so maybe I should prepare you for that and
Yeah.
you have the first go. I'm like, oh my god, he's awful. Like, what the fuck? I'm like
Yeah. He's
listening
like,
to
oh,
this and reading this.
I already slept with your sister. Maybe I should sleep with you too. Like,
Exactly. Let me just
what the
collect my
fuck?
nieces. Like, what is this? Ugh, it's
Disturbing.
very
Oh, it's just
much
sickening.
so. And maybe this like, no thanks.
Yeah. She's like,
Please
no.
leave.
Yeah.
As she's holding
Walk
the
away.
dead cat head like
Yeah.
behind her.
Yeah.
Like, go away, please.
Yes, literally.
Yeah, he's awful. But
Ugh.
Mavis ultimately like leaves the shed with an excuse like, I gotta get ready for lunch, and then she goes
Yeah.
and buries the cat head, and then Lola calls out to Mavis while she's in the yard burying the cat head, and Alasia confessed to be pregnant with Rifton's child, and she is now branded a sinner. And the way I immediately was like, in Game of Thrones when Cersei was like marched through the street.
Shame.
Yeah,
Shame.
shame.
Yeah.
Yep, that immediately my mind goes to that for this next interaction that what we're gonna see is going on in Foxglove Parish. So the way I'm like, Alasia, who the fuck did you tell? Did you tell Lola? Did you tell? Because
Yeah.
it's just like she confessed. Who'd she confess to? She told Rifton, but Rifton is like equally in a mess. Like he's not, So I was just like, who did she confess to here? That incriminated her.
I will say this. If this book was written by a man and maybe marketed differently, I wonder if it would be more under like the Game of Thrones vibes genres. Like, because it's very high fantasy in my mind.
Mhm.
I think this
Oh, for
whole
sure.
book is super high fantasy. It's got its own glossary. There's a lot happening, but it's written by a woman. So therefore, eventually there's some redeeming things. But this is very, very dark, like Game of Thrones and all the worlds surrounding Game of Thrones. It had very much has a George R.R. Martin darkness to it.
Oh, for
In the
sure.
same type of way that a lot of those really dark fantasy elements that are in Game of Thrones and on screen and part of the book series, a lot of this book has dark elements like that. Truly
And I would say
dark
like
elements.
in terms of like spice, it has maybe less
Yeah.
or equal to what George R.R. Martin has written, but because she's a woman and she's branded in the romantasy genre, it comes off differently than if this was part of George R.R. Martin's world, which is very I feel like the way she writes her female and female and male characters, it doesn't romanticize any aspect of either world at all through like a
No.
female lens or a male lens. So
Mm-mm.
I think this book deserves a lot more attention than it's gotten.
And credit.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think the level of depth here that she's gone to and the level of detail in describing the intensity behind these very, very layered characters, I think the series in general is underhyped. I really believe that. I think it's underhyped. I think that there are people who love it, and that Anathema has gotten a lot of credit, and Eldritch as well, but it's definitely underhyped, in my opinion, based on some of the other super popular books
It definitely
in
needs
this
to be made
genre.
a series. I would love to see this as a series,
Oh,
like a
absolutely.
TV series.
Yeah. It
HBO.
falls into The Witcher, that
Yeah.
whole thing. Because the world where The Witcher is based, there's nothing redeemable about like anything about that either.
Mhm.
That whole thing is dark as hell. Anyway, chapter 22. Zavander. Back to Zavander. We're back to Zavander and his bestie. And Zavander and Kashmir are approaching Corvus Keep, and they're on their long trek together, you know. And Zavander is going to take Dolian to the dungeons of Eidolon, and he's going to end up sparing his life. And Zavander tells Kashmir that Dolian has very illegal bloodstones that he needs to break his curse. So he kind of tells Kashmir about what's going on. And then Kashmir's like, you want to tell me about this now? Because, like, I'd like to know this before, because, like, we could get killed for this. But cool, thanks for telling me, I guess. Like, why did you tell me, basically? So as they're talking, they accidentally wander into quicksand. Awesome. They're attacked by these creatures that were once normal citizens. So they're carnificans, which if we use our glossary to look up carnificans, we can find out exactly what they are. And they are basically this mancer who has consumed too much vivicantum and becomes violent. So we talked about them before. And they're basically consumed way too much of it. They're kind of like almost a zombie violent creature thing. They're not really fully themselves anymore. They're something else. He uses his scorpions to fight them off. So they get to the keep. It's completely in decay. They don't know who once occupied the castle, but all of their belongings had remained. So the castle had belongs to Nexteros. So they keep getting attacked again by more carnificans as they're walking up to this area. They eventually split up and they find Dolian. So Zavander kills these mimicrows on purpose because, remember, these were birds that mimic everything that they hear on purpose. So they need to be killed. Dolian at this time shares that he's having this vision with Zavander of Cadavros. And if we remember Cadavros, he's the same guy from the prologue who had given Zavander this curse in the first place. So there's Zavander who's like, what? Because obviously this is not good. And at the same time, you have him also, Dolian is saying to him that a Corvugin is also been seen. And so if you're like, the fuck is going on? Because I don't know what any of this means. Hey, you're not alone, okay?
Mhm.
We're going to consult the glossary just to make sure we know exactly what these
The
things
Corvugons,
are.
it's Ravox. Ravox is a Corvugon.
That's right.
So he's
So
like
it's
seeing these.
described as, a cousin of a draken. It's a serpentine-like creature with 4 legs, feathers, a beak, and wings that breathe silver flames. All right. So we know where this was saw. And so the Corvugins are messengers of the dead and pets of the death goddess. Raptors with teeth and claws, they evoke as much fear as a dragon, a Ravox. Who do we know who just happens to have a pet Ravox? I mean, I wonder, Michelle. Who do we know?
So now we're obviously Mavis is like death goddess at this point in time. This is where we're immediately connecting. Like she's stuck in this poor little parish, and she's actually a death goddess.
She's actually a death goddess because remember, she's an orphan. We don't know who her parents are. She got left outside the Eating Woods. She has Ravox who showed up next to her as soon as she gave blood as a sacrifice on accident to the Eating Woods. Now she has her Ravox ready to go. And who did Zavander just meet that has a Ravox? So he's like, what do you mean, Dolian? You saw me with our Curmudgeon. How did you see me with that? Interesting. So Dolian's like, we haven't seen one of these creatures in so long that it seems very unlikely that this what I just saw was accurate, right? So we have our very first glimpse of like what the future of the story is going to be, and this is critical information that we're given about Mavis that is not in a chapter with Mavis's background. So interesting here. So now we know that this magehood is hunting Dolian because they want something else, which is to possess the Septimere. And they believe his visions of the monsters. So the Septimere is something else. So we need to be cognizant of that as well. And the Septimere is basically, per the glossary, a powerful scepter that was once used to create the Umbravel, powered by the blood of the Seven. Okay? So there's two things that are happening in tandem in this chapter. We're hearing about what's happening with Maveth, essentially, and Zavander's future, possibly. And we're also finding out that Dolian has something very powerful that he is on the run from, that has the magehood following him, that believes he's powerful. So Dolian tells him that the Corvicae used to inhabit this castle, mortals, no blood magic. They were driven into this trench by the Solatians. The silver markings on this bloodstone are unique to the Corvicae who worship the goddess of death. So the Corvicae people are in this trench. They fell in there, right? Goddess of Death, Mavis is the first or last of this bloodline. So Goddess of Death bloodline is Maveth's bloodline.
And Zavander, mortals aren't in his world. Like, he's just like, mortals, what do you mean? So now you're like, oh, this is Maveth's bloodline. Clearly, she was a mortal in this world, and now is, she was left at some point because they were driven into the Crucerian trench. And it's, the pieces are connecting here, which I liked how it was kind of earlier on in the book that you're not questioning a lot. Like, I do love a good Easter egg, but here you're not questioning. You're like, okay, these pieces exactly fit together, and that's why she needs to go into his world.
Right.
Which made it, I think, a lot easier to absorb.
Right. I agree. Even though the way I've described it seems overwhelming because you have these different words you've never heard of before, the glossary and the fact that you said, Michelle, you know exactly what they're trying to do, even if you're trying to figure it out as they go from a definition standpoint, you know what they're trying to do. And she lines that up very quickly so that there's no mystery of how maybe this world she's in sucks ass and she needs to get out. And then also there's a need for her to fit into this other world. There's a place that she would fit in based on all the other criteria that we've seen kind of fall into place for her. So Dolian ends up selling him, I can't break this curse for you. And also, we're not going to kill a Corvicae if we find one, if she really is one of them. Like, we can't do that. We need this bloodline to exist like that. We can't do that. So Dolian opens this portal out of the castle, and they take him out of the dungeon, but a mage ends up ambushing him, and that's where we end the chapter.
And the way Zavander's like, what the fuck do you mean? You can't, like, that's the whole point of this. And literally, now you're just not going to kill her?
That's why we're doing this. Now you're just not going to, now you're telling me no? Like, what do you mean no? What do you mean?
We're going to figure it the fuck out, but you're going to be in a dungeon in my own place while we figure it out, because I'm not dealing with this bullshit.
Literally, yeah.
Which, again, don't blame him. So chapter 23 is back in Maveth's perspective, and the soldiers took Alasia, and Maveth is trying to fight them off her. And, Maveth is smaller, so she's not doing a very good job. She even stabs a guard and then is thrown to the ground and dragged back into the house, probably by Felix and or Riften. Agatha ultimately slaps her and calls her and Alasia an embarrassment because now this is like tainting her entire family name. Then she's just like, Riften, take her to Moros because I'm done. I'm done with you two. We're done here. They tie her up and take her to Moros's house in a carriage with all of her things, which isn't a whole lot. And the way like Moros is really upset with them and how Maveth is presented. Like, well, yeah, she would stab someone and is fighting. That's her sister, of course. Like, that makes sense. So again, you're like, maybe Moros is kind of okay, Yeah. Like, because he has like, he's like, yeah, okay. And he's like, Maveth, come on, let's get you unbound, like untie her right now. Let me show you your room and everything. So you're like, okay, he's
you keep
nice
getting
here.
this like, is he okay? Is he not?
We
Maybe
find
he
out
just
immediately
has, like,
that
anger
he is
problems
not.
or something. we're like, we can't figure out what the deal is here. We're
Mhm.
like, well, because you have to remember too, you have Zavander on the other side who's just offing people left and right. And so like I mean, he's our shadow daddy, but like we're still kind of figuring out, is Moros redeemable? Is there something
No.
we don't know? And there's
Yes.
definitely a few things we don't know.
As we find out very quickly in this chapter, because he's like,
Yeah.
I have something I'd love to show you. And yeah, he takes her into like this basement type area, and he has walls lined with collections of unusual creatures in jars. And then there's this tank of two women swimming. Their legs are stitched and bound by cloth, and their faces are covered in masks that are attached to tubes of air. So he goes down the story of how he saw a, quote, freak show or a circus
Yeah.
as a child. And like, think of if you've seen like The Greatest Showman with Hugh Jackman, like kind of that sort of thing, but
Mm-hmm.
more horror filled and not a cute Disney movie. And it had mermaids, and he's like, I want one. Like, I
No,
want
not
one of
one,
those.
but two.
Yeah. And it's another movie reference. It's like the really spoiled girl in Willy Wonka. Veruca was like, I want one, daddy. So essentially, he's like, I want one of those, so I'm gonna have one of those. And then he was very sad to learn that mermaids didn't exist, and it was just a trick. So he's like, you know what? I'm gonna make mermaids. So the girls in the tank are Lavarians, which we already know that the parish feels very strongly about Lavarians being lesser than. He bartered with their father that, you know, if I take your two daughters, I'll spare your village. And the father was like, no. So he killed his wife and sons. And like, you know, he's telling Maveth all of this. And he ultimately, to spare the village, gives him the daughters too. And he says this quote is that, let your sister be a lesson. Wild and unruly women have no place in this world. You're meant to be tamed or put down if necessary. So the reason why he wanted these two Lavarian girls in the first place is they were like running around like naked and just, they're free. They're free and happy. So how
Dare
dare
they?
you? How dare you? You are meant to be captured and to be looked at and made into a commodity. And the way I was just like, this
Specifically for
scene,
men.
ugh, yeah. And then Moros shows, he's like, but wait, there's more. The captain who at lunch the other day, the captain that was sitting next to Maveth put his hand on her. And obviously she is Moros's property. And he didn't like that. So the captain was there. He is no longer a man. He's a creature at this point in time. His spine is stuck up through the skin. Half of his face is melted and deformed. The skull and the jaw, his jaw has
He's a
pointed teeth. His
carnifican.
skulls, yeah. His
We just
skin was
don't know
milky
that
white.
name in her
No.
world. But he's
Well,
a
he doesn't
carnifican.
know. Morris doesn't know what the white milky stones are, and those are vivicantum.
Yeah.
So he has no idea what these are, and he gives one to him as like a, you know, let's figure out what
Punishment.
this is. And we figure out what it is, and now he eats like flesh and yeah. So this whole thing
So
is
remember the
essentially
things that Zavander had killed outside of the castle before
Mhm.
he's on his way to Dolian. This is what Moros turns this captain into, because he doesn't
Yep.
really realize what the Vivicanum does. But yeah, so we
Mhm.
see the same type of creature.
And the way this is just supposed to basically put Maveth in her place. Like, you are here.
Terrify
Yes,
her.
you'll be my wife, but you are not above them. Like, I'm not above doing this to you as well, which is horrific.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Basically, step out of line and you'll be like your captain friend here. You may
Mhm.
not be Laverian, which is the step below, you know, because I'm super racist. It's not them, but I see you as an equal to them anyway, because you're not
Mhm.
a male with status. Therefore, you
Nope.
are lesser
Yep.
automatically. So obviously, Maveth is like, the fuck is going on? I gotta get out of here. This can't happen. I cannot marry this guy. But she
Mhm.
doesn't really see a way out, because what else is she gonna do? She can't go back to Agatha. And yeah, what's the girl to do? So Mavis is in her room. She goes in and she sees Danira, which, if we remember from before, is the dead Laverian girl. And she's in the rocking chair in the corner. And Mavis is like, cool, we're just going to see more dead people. This is awesome. And so she starts telling her, and she's like, Mavis, don't trust her. Trust him. Morris is going to hurt you. You and Elijah need to get out of here. Like, there's no good way that this is going to end for you. Look at me. I'm quite literally dead. So she starts chanting witch, and her palm holds this symbol. So her body's twitching, and she puts her hand on the bed, and she ends up disappearing. So Mavis wakes up, and she thinks like she fell asleep. And she's like, oh, God, I'm seeing these visions again. What the fuck? And then she's like, oh gosh, now I got to go for my sister's banishing. Because remember, Elijah, can't be with child, because if she's with child, then she did something out of wedlock. And then if she did something out of wedlock, then she needs to go to the Eating Woods, because obviously that makes the most sense. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's no other way for you.
No, of course not. So that is, now we're in part 2. So that ends part 1. We are in part 2 of the book, which is chapter 25. And we are in Mavis' perspective. So it's dusk. Elijah is stripped completely naked, body bruised, hair hacked away, and Mavis is being held back by the Bonkovian soldiers. So it's, she's seeing her sister on full display. Section Crane announces Elijah's crimes and how the pregnancy had been terminated. Obviously, they beat her. And then he pulls a surprise and says Riften is as much to blame and will also be banished and cleansed of the parish. And he's just like, what? Because he was in the crowd just watching, thinking he got off. So
and like he's fine with this too, which is like, I did too. I like this part too, but I was also like, Riften, we're just gonna be fine with this. We're just gonna say, oh yeah, that's my niece, no big deal.
That was your niece, and that was your actions and your niece. You manipulated her, But I like that he is also banished. This was I'm like, good, thankfully. Mavis ends up grabbing a torch from a villager and swipes it in front of her until she was close to her sister. So she's like, get back, get back. The parish chanted witch and attacked her. And then Mavis like throws out her hands as like a protection, but bones appeared in front of her, like from the ground. Like all of a sudden, like bones are there. And then they're like, stone the witch, ultimately.
Because they're like, what the fuck? She just made bones appear. Yeah.
Magic. Actual witch, not, the fake one. So they end up, Mavis is like, run, we gotta run. So Elijah, Mavis, and Riften run into the woods because, that's their only choice. This is attacked by a Wiccan in the woods as she runs, and Ravox like attacks the creature. Moros had actually charged after her and captured her. So she's like, you will produce an heir for me. And the way I'm like,
I think he's like,
Moros, get the fuck out of
here. Excited about the fact that she had this magic too. Because now she's more of something he can collect. Yeah,
exactly. So he doesn't care because he knows he can, or he wants to, just control her. And then, so as he's like, you're going to come with me, a creature with horns and cloven hooves attacks Moros and takes the Vivicanton from him because it clearly wants it. And Moros thought he can like kind of manipulate the creature, like, I know where this came from. I'll give you more, whatever. And then the creature literally like eats him. Like,
yes,
whole,
like, violently.
This is very horrific. Like, this is very horror movie.
Riften, this is graphic as shit.
Yeah. Riften grabs her and is like, be quiet. Like, he comes up from behind her, like, you need to be quiet. We don't want the creature coming to us. And then Riften and Mavis run away from the creature. So this creature now takes the form of Moros, but it's not like he's actually Moros. It's like a tree twig thing.
Remember when the farmer guy in Men in Black gets like taken over by the alien?
Oh yeah.
He like has a different voice, but you're like, this voice doesn't match. It's kind of like that, where he like definitely is like, wearing the skin of the guy.
Yeah, but like that's kind of like a fun movie. This is not. This is horrific.
Oh no, well, that's kind of horrific too, honestly, because that guy's also dead. So not good. But funny because it's Will Smith. But in this case, there's no Will Smith. So
No,
yeah.
no. We have no comedic relief here. But Mavis runs until she finds an archway, and Alasia's there. And they're waiting for Mavis, and they hesitate in front of the archway. They know they need to escape. And they ultimately decide that Mavis needs to go first. So Mavis steps into the archway, and it seals behind her. Like, the translucent surface is, like, now just solid. And she sees back through it, and she sees that Moros took Alasia. And 3 other men also come, and to Mavis. So we have the archway. Mavis is on one side. Alasia's being taken by Morris on the other. And then 3 men
Terrifying.
come to Mavis on this side. Like, oh,
Yeah.
we have someone here. And one of the men, remember that one guard from earlier that Zavander
Mm-hmm.
put a scorpion in? So he is one of them. And he's immediately like, we need to tell someone. We need to take her somewhere. Like, and they're
Yeah.
like, oh, we should do all these like disgusting things to her. And he's just like, I'm gonna sit here and be really uncomfortable right now because I know as soon as like we leave, I have somewhere to go. But they talk about like her smell, and they're talking, and she responds to them in Nextorosi, which is their language. And they're like, what the fuck? You're immortal, but you can speak her language? Like, that's weird. And they ultimately decide to take her to the Bones Guard. So the Bones Guard essentially is an abandoned castle, and that's where they send all of their like really high profile criminals. Our murderers are really awful people, but they also send women there because they like to watch the really horrific criminals do things to the women for their own pleasure. So they're like, this is going to be fun. We're going to take her there and let the prisoners have fun with
Mm-hmm.
her. So again, she's just like, what the fuck? I don't want to go there. That doesn't sound fun.
Yeah.
She
Poor
has
Mavis.
no choice. Yeah.
She
She
can't
like
catch a break.
escape one horror to another horror. Like, what is?
Meanwhile, watch her
Yeah.
sister like getting taken by a monster.
Yep.
She can't go back and get her. And this is something that's really important too, because for the rest of this book, she's really tied to getting back to her. Because she's like, I don't know whatever it is you want to do, but like I need to get back to my sister.
Yep.
So she's just really plagued with this, as anyone would be, with a desire to get back to try to save her sister, even though she feels in her gut that she doesn't want to believe that she's dead, but she has this feeling that she might be. So she's
Right.
really worried about her. So chapter 26 goes back to Zavander. This royal guard comes to Zavander to tell him that this mortal has come through the portal and that they're taking her to Bones Guard. He knows, again, that the Bones Guard houses the most violent criminals. As Michelle described before, he kind of describes this a little bit more, so we find out what Bones Guard is. So the guard described Mavis to Zavander, and he's like, oh, I know who that is. I'm going to go to Bones Guard. So Zavander tells Dolian that she is crossed, meaning the one that he needs to cross, the 7th bloodline. And Dolian insists that he needs to protect her, so he can't try to kill her anymore. Which I don't know that he would anyway at this point, because he was kind of enamored with her, but Dolian officially is like, you're not allowed, so don't. And Dolian uses the small bloodstone to examine her blood. The smoke forms as a glyph that's a scythe with a bird's eye, which is a death glyph. So remember, we keep seeing these same type of death goddess things pop up. So Dolian tells Zavander to bring Mavis to him for him to like study, and that they'll go through all the efforts that they can to start to rid him of this curse. And that ends chapter 26.
All right. What's our down the rabbit hole for this episode?
Yeah. So down the rabbit hole, when we started Book Club After Dark in October of 2024, there was a lot of literary, even in major publications, there was a lot of literary traction talking about romantasy and dark romantasy and this whole genre that's really blown up and taken over, that it wouldn't A, stand the test of time, and B, that it was essentially, mind rot trash. And so what I wanted to talk about is the fact that I actually tried today. There's a couple reels that are ironically made by men, given that we're talking about misogyny, I thought was relevant. There's a bunch of reels that went viral of other creators making fun of these creators, but they're creators that are like, can you believe now that every time you go into a bookstore, all you see is Romantasy?
Yep.
And it's always these guys saying this. And so I was like, let me go and see recent articles that are published by these big brands, your Cosmopolitan, your really big publications that talk about readers, talk about what's going on in the book talk space, what's going on. Like Vice is another one. Five Wild Romantasy Reads is one of their end of November things that they put out. New York Times Romantasy, a starter pack. And this was end of 2025. And I just have to think like where we have come as a genre, as a in legitimacy now versus where I think romantasy and romance novels were a couple, even 2-3 years ago. I think that the tables have started to turn for the positive, and I think it's a really good thing. And I now think what we're seeing is we have such a strong backing now and such a big group of support that when people say, can you believe romantasy is the only thing, that's taking up all these shelves? Can you just believe it? And it's like, well, you could just shut the fuck up. Like I feel like you could just do that because that's what's selling and it's not hurting you. Like, why do we care? So I guess my down the rabbit hole question for you is, what are your thoughts on the transition over time of how we're seeing the genre and subgenres acceptance change and what you kind of think that tells the story of in our time as it relates to some of the topics that we talked about in Anathema and where that kind of lines up?
So, for one, I love seeing romantasy growing just because it validates the necessity of a fantasy world. And the reels that you've seen, I believe I sent you one of them. It's like this usually just stuck up looking male, like romantasy. It just reminds me of all of the people that I went to college with that are very much like purist in terms of like their need to read the classics. It's like, okay, the classics are great, but why are we only reading something that was written 50 to 100 years ago plus, And I just think that it's a way for women, a lot of women writers, but also there are male writers who write romantasy. But authors to break down typical roles that were played or typical ideologies and really allow a commentary on how the world is, a commentary on how different political systems work, on how, different struggles that we have globally in terms of like social issues in a way that it allows people to actually think. Like if you actually read these books, it forces you to think about and reflect on your world. Like we were just reading about Foxglove Parish, which is awful, a heavily religious community. There's I made a comment on how it's like relevant to like Salem, and it allows you to think on, okay, do I see this in the real world? How do I see this in the real world? And it opens doors that you wouldn't think of in like if you were just reading historical fiction, which I love historical fiction, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But the standard person isn't going to just read about, misogyny in a church. It's not, they're not, but they can explore those realms in kind of, I don't want to say a safe place, but a more comforting space because it is
A created
in like the
space.
fantasy area. Yeah, it's in the fantasy realm. So real world themes, fantasy elements that allow expression and exploration into those like really hot topics. So people need to shut the fuck up. Read what you want to read. Ultimately, in a roundabout way, fuck off.
Yeah. Well, so it's interesting because, right, BBC's published an article, quote, "Not just smut, why it's happily ever after for romance
Mhm.
novels." You know, I did 1 year of reading fairy smut, which is from another publisher that they now they have everything good to say about ACOTAR and painting romantasy and Fourth Wing in a positive light, which is a good thing. And I think that's a lot of it too, right? Is that there's this negative connotation to women reading smut, and that there is, first of all, a definition of what smut is all around the place. Everyone's definition of that seems to rotate and change. But regardless of that, I think the idea that women don't wanna read rated R books, to me, is foolish. We're adults just like a man is an adult. So I don't really
Right.
understand. I get that it
I
gets
mean,
confusing for me.
people read Game of Thrones and no problem. So it's the same tier. We were just comparing Anathema to Game of Thrones because they are very much on the same level in terms of their world building and their sexual content. No one gave a
And I actually
fuck
think
about
Anathema has less,
exactly.
actually.
Yeah, it does.
Coincidentally, I
Um,
think it has less.
and
But,
there's
you know,
less
here we are.
family sleeping with family also. There's a little bit of that, just not as much. So it the fact but George R. R. Martin is termed just fantasy
Right.
because they
High
is
fantasy,
high
male fantasy.
fantasy.
There's even a whole, like,
Mhm.
world in the book talk realm of, like, what's guy fantasy versus girl fantasy, which I really wanna stay away from because I don't believe in that at all, and I
No.
think it really undermines female authors in this genre, and that's also
Yes.
where I think that Anathema and Eldritch are underhyped, because the second you put a label on it that, "Oh, it's romantasy, it must be for women, it's targeted for the female audience." Where are we getting this from? I feel like it's really toxic. I don't feel like it's helpful to the readers as a whole. I think the idea of putting readers in boxes, genres are fine, but assuming that a genre is related to a specific gender, to me, is kinda wild. I just don't
Yeah.
understand what the gain is in thinking that way.
Well, I mean, it's to honestly, weak people do that because they fear things that they believe or they perceive the world to be is not accurate. People who are afraid to have like their thoughts challenged put people in boxes. And most people who are like, ew, romantasy, probably have never picked up a romantasy book. And that's why I feel like it's fantasy slash romantasy. And yeah, the romance element is important, but it takes, if you just say like this is romance with dragons or this is just romance with, fairies, you're taking away so much of the plot and so of all
So
these
much.
books and so much of the world building that take a long time. Like these maps, the language is created that's, you know, okay, people will learn Targaryen, but we're not going to learn whatever Nick Starosi because George R. R. Martin is on another tier, which we've been mentioning him a lot. I'm not hating on him, although I really
No,
want the
absolutely
last
not.
book. I really
No, no, no.
do.
I would say
Please.
Brandon Sanderson is a more recent who completes
Yeah.
series that is in the same genre as
Yes.
him.
Mhm.
There's and, I've read Mistborn, so it's like Mistborn has a lot of the same dark elements as well. It's considered
Mhm.
high fantasy. And I just thought that that'd be worth exploring, and I thought it was interesting for a down the rabbit hole segment to kinda talk about how the rebranding of romantasy in terms of what the news is willing to discuss now versus just a couple of years ago. I feel
Right.
like the tides are starting to turn for the positive, which is a really, really good thing. But I think that there is still very much a division between the genres as what's considered, high fantasy, male fantasy, etc., and it's damaging overall to
Right.
all readers. I don't think it's a
Well, I
positive thing
think
for anyone.
right. I think a lot of these big series being picked up by like Netflix or Hulu or, getting their big screen debut, I think that's going to continue to help that because
Yeah,
people
absolutely.
are going to watch the series and be like, "Oh, like I like, they're going to watch Fourth Wing and be like, "Okay, this is like a military style like dragon type show." And then they realize, oh, this is branded romantasy, but I actually kind of liked this. So what, it will open that door.
Agree. That wraps up our Down the Rabbit Hole segment. If you have anything that you want to add to that conversation, feel free to let us know in the comments. Let us know on socials. We would love to hear from you and what your thoughts are on that.
Absolutely. Now it's time for our mystery Q&A. These questions have not been shared with either of us prior to asking. My question to you, because I've been seeing a lot of maybe it's just because my algorithm is that way. I see a lot of millennial nostalgia and thinking about things like with my daughter and what we kind of, as parents, we in a way we kind of craft their reality. The kid's gonna believe what you say to be true, whether it's true or not. Obviously, I'm not saying that, condoning lying to your children and saying that I lied to my child, but I realize that. So my question to you is, what is something that you were told when you were a kid, and it could be about anything, then when you were an adult, you realize that, wow, that was a lie?
Oh, the very first thing that comes to mind is that if you put the overhead light on in the car, the cop's going to
That's
pull
what
us
I
over.
thought.
That was the very first thing that came to mind. Which is, by the way, not true.
No, it's not.
But yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna get arrested. It's like, what?
Yeah. But
I
also,
need to
like,
see.
I understand why, because it's bright as fuck and like it's
Yeah.
distracting. So I know
For sure.
why they were like, what? But like they scared you into it because they're like, oh, well, we're gonna get mom or dad's gonna go to jail. Like I won't be able to take you home.
How was every parent on the same bandwagon?
They
Like
all shared this
literally.
information. They had to have. Like
I
they
don't
had to have.
understand. Like
Yeah.
we're just gonna tell our children this lie all across the country. Like
Yeah.
yeah, that was definitely the first one that I thought of too. I'm like, the fucking overhead light.
Yeah. I also remember being told that, what was it? Oh, so swimming in the pool is obviously big in Florida where we live. And I remember being told by my grandfather who had a swimming pool. And no one else I knew had a swimming pool. My grandfather had a swimming pool, and I would get to go to my grandparents' house, once a month or 2 weeks in the summer, whatever, right? And I vividly remember him telling me that if I peed in the pool, a purple cloud would follow me because it would show like where I peed.
Okay. Aren't
Very
there
cool idea
chemicals
for an
though?
invention,
Aren't there
but does not
chemicals with the
exist. Not to
blue?
my knowledge. No,
Really?
I don't think that's a
Okay,
real
because I'm
thing.
just thinking.
No.
See, I thought that was a thing too.
See?
And then in Grown Ups, that movie Grown Ups, Adam Sandler's movie, there's a scene where one of the characters is peeing in like the theme park, and then like there's like this blue cloud that's just around
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, and that's not a thing. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, FYI, everybody who's in the pool. Yeah, that's not a thing. I mean, I don't, but I'm saying like
If that
there's
is something
people
you
I'm sure
do,
that do. Yeah, hopefully you don't. Don't do that. You should not do that. But also
well,
there's no
then I
purple
think
cloud.
about like I think about like little kid theme park, like little kids swim in there, and kids pee in the pool, especially if you have a baby. Babies just they do it. That's just I've
Even
never
the
seen
potty
a
trained
blue.
ones, they're gonna have
Yeah,
accidents because the water's gonna feel warm and it might not even be intentional,
yeah, gross.
But right. So my point being though, there's no
Blue
thing like
cloud.
that
There's no
happens. But
cloud.
am I totally gonna tell my son both of those things? Yes. Yes, I am. Maybe not the extreme thing about the cops are gonna be called if you put the light on, but also like I can't see, which is true. Put the light off.
Yes.
But the pee thing in the pool, that one seems like a good one to say to me. I feel like that's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, avoids peeing in the pool.
I'm just saying, like, don't do it. A cloud's gonna follow you. People are gonna know, you know?
Uh-huh.
So, but also, like, that's gross, so don't do it. But I feel like, boy, mom, that's gross is kind of like, that's cool. I should do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, we'll have to see.
Okay.
I haven't decided yet if I'm gonna use them, but maybe I'll use some kind of modified version of them.
I
Is that your
mean,
same answer?
well, yeah. So the first one, I was like, it was definitely the light overhead, and then another one. I mean, this one's kind of dark because of how the world has changed. It's the just go to college and get an education. Everything's gonna be fine. You're gonna be able to like
Oh,
do
yeah.
whatever you want. And yes, you can. However, life is 10 million times harder than it was for our
Oh my
parents.
gosh.
I was just thinking of like, our parents on one income was able to afford like a crazy nice house, which was like, yeah, the houses to the income ratio completely different than it was before. Now just getting your bachelor's degree and whatever the fuck you want, not a thing. So that was like the biggest
Yeah.
lie. I'm like, wow, no wonder why millennials are like jaded. Like we're termed like the jaded generation because we were promised everything and we
I've been
got
through a lot.
yeah, recessions,
Been through a lot.
a lot
Pandemics.
of
Yeah, all the
yeah.
things. Mm-hmm.
mm, So,
Oh, yeah. Good times. I'm going to ask you a happier question.
okay.
So, I guess in the vein of if so Girl Scouts have Girl Scout cookies and like the Boy Scouts have like the
The
popcorn and
popcorn, yeah.
stuff. But I'm like, if they could like sell something else, what should they sell?
Ooh,
Like either one.
charcuterie boards.
Ooh.
That's immediately I'm like an assortment of meats and cheeses.
Oh.
Yeah, like my grown-up Lunchable. That's what I want. Is my
Ooh, you
grown-up
want a grown-up
Lunchable.
Lunchable. Okay.
Basically.
Yeah, but now they have to like cart around refrigeration. I feel like that makes it
No.
more challenging.
Well, I mean, I guess with the cheeses. Not with the meat though. So, yeah. Hmm. I still want my grown-up Lunchable.
Sure.
I can't think of anything else now that, refrigeration is an issue. They make dehydrated cheese.
That's true. I just don't feel like it would
So,
hit the same.
no, it wouldn't. Hmm. I'm trying to think what other snack stuff.
So known for their Girl Scout cookies,
Yeah,
you know?
I want my samosa. Like that's
I
the
was just gonna say,
the
are you like a Thin Mint girly? Like, what are we?
I'm not. I like my chocolate with the caramel and the coconut on top. The samosas. So good. But
Okay.
obviously with the caramel, I can't have that right now. Maybe I'll
Yeah.
have my husband buy a couple boxes and just store them away for when I can try dairy again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know what other like iconic like snack they could have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'm
was
sticking
thinking
with my
about it
like
too.
maybe jerky. Jerky would be a good one. Especially for like
Okay.
Boy Scouts. I feel like that's kind of Boy Scout-esque. You're out in the woods, you need some dried food. There we go.
Yeah. Boy Scouts gonna have they're gonna have jerky. Okay. The Boy Scouts are gonna sell jerky.
Okay.
All right.
What's yours?
I don't know. Like, what if the
You posed the question, you don't even have an answer.
No, my answer, I was gonna say like some kind of like really clean burning like candles or like
Oh.
skincare stuff
Yeah, but
for the Girl
that's like Mary
Scouts.
Kate. That's like Mary Kate, the Mary Kate. Remember
No,
that
not like
craze
Mary
of
Kate.
like
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I do. No, but I thought like what would be something good that's like not edible that they could sell that would be that people would definitely buy. Like think about it. Think about if they had like really specific niche candles every year that were different. Like they came out with different ones.
Yeah.
I don't
I don't
I feel like that
know.
would sell.
Little girls standing in front of like
I
Publix
know with
being like,
glass
here's
also.
the candle.
It's
It's
weird.
hot outside and this might melt.
And also like this is made of glass and if I have to cart it around in a basket, it just not a good idea.
No,
This is not a good idea. Don't take my
no.
idea, Girl Scouts. This is a terrible idea. Should not use
That's
this
just what
idea.
the Girl Scouts do. It's cookies. It's because they're supposed to be like cute and cookies, you know? I don't
Yeah.
know.
You're right.
I, I
No, one
can't
of
think of
the like
anything
they're
else.
like the daisies, the brownies, the Girl Scouts, they
Yeah.
have like their different little tiers. Yeah. You're right. The cookies work. They're not doing anything
Do
bad
not
with the
change.
cookies. They're
Don't change
iconic.
anything. No.
Yeah, don't change. Boy Scouts though, Jerky could be a good idea.
Well, I mean, have you tried to buy some of their popcorn? It's like $20 for like
It's
a
expensive.
canister. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna walk into Walmart and grab my $5 giant ass bag of
That
popcorn.
has that
Thank
has
you
like 7
very much.
bags that are microwavable in it. Yeah.
Yeah,
But like
no,
the point is, Michelle, you're supposed to be donating to the Boy Scouts. That's the whole point. It's not really for
$20 for some popcorn. I'll take the Girl Scout. At least it's a reasonable price with the Girl Scout cookies. It's like $5 to $7 for a box. It's
They
not
always
that
get me,
bad.
man. We like bought a
Because
bunch.
it's
That's why I
$5 to
had
$7. I bet the Boy Scouts be struggling.
and but
$20 for some
well,
popcorn.
of course, because they don't come out with like new awesome flavors every year either. Or maybe they do. I just don't know about them because they're so expensive. I don't know.
Do you remember in elementary school we used to get those catalogs that we were supposed to like sell stuff off of for like the holidays? Did your school do that?
Oh yeah, there's like
Yeah.
chocolates you were supposed to sell. And
Yeah.
we were always trying
Or
to
like
sell
a
something.
catalog of like cookie dough or like some other shit, and you were like,
Oh yeah,
you
you're
know,
always
you give
trying
it
to
to
sell
your
something.
parent and
You're
be
doing a
like, can you?
walkathon, or you're doing. I mean, you're
Yeah,
always trying to raise funds for something. My
for
goodness.
something. And like
Yeah.
they expect us to go door to door and just ask strangers, hey, would you like to buy this big ass tub of cookie
Well,
dough?
where do you think all the no soliciting signs came from? All the boomers who
for
got hit
sure.
up by all the kids like selling stuff. They're like, we're done with this. We don't want any more. No more.
Also, me having a no soliciting sign, and if someone comes to my door, I stare at them through my Ring app. I'm just like,
Okay, but you
go
also
away.
have a newborn, so please don't knock on my door
I've
of
been like that
dogs.
though. I've been
Oh,
like
okay.
that.
I was
Like
trying to
I
give you some
don't
credit here.
know that
I was trying to
sign.
help you out.
I have a sign that says, sleeping baby, loud dogs, do not like no soliciting or
Yeah.
something like that. And I got that sign when I had my daughter, but that sign stayed up. Like I have not taken that sign down because I don't want people ringing the doorbell.
That's fair.
I just stare at
Yeah.
them through the Ring app and just
Fair.
wait until they leave, even though I'm right there. I'm not answering the door.
It's classic.
I've watched too much. Yeah, I know. I've watched too much true crime. Like, no, we're
gosh.
not doing this.
Too many thriller novels for you, Michelle.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No. If you need me, you can text me. Not show up at my door. All right. Before we wrap up, let's talk about what's coming up next on Book Club After Dark.
Yeah, next week we're going to dive into chapters 27 through 39 of Anathema by Kerri Lake, and we're looking forward to further dissecting this novel with you. Yep.
And don't forget, we want to hear from you. If you have thoughts on Anathema or suggestions for future reads, drop a comment below or message us on one of our social media platforms at Book Club After Dark Pod. Show us your fan art theories or anything bookish you'd like to share.
You can also visit our website, bookclubafterdark.co, stay up to date on our cozy content, and check out our merch.
That's all for tonight. Sleep tight, night owls. Until next time, happy reading.